Hello, welcome to Art Conspiracy. I'm Amy. This is part two in a two-part video series about watercolor supplies for the beginner. So if you haven't seen the first one, you should probably see that one before you see this one, because this is kind of a piggyback on that. So we're going to talk about some basic supplies, try to demystify color theory a little bit. So let's get started. Okay, let me change my screen and show you. Okay, in our first video, we talked about getting some pan colors, which are these, this kind of watercolor kit here. One of the tips that I gave you, which I think is really important, is if you buy a brand and it tells you the names of the colors, like ultramarine blue or Viridian or alizarin, that's probably going to be a pretty decent brand. If it doesn't give you the names, it might be a very cheap brand, which you should probably avoid. So having said that, it'll give you these. So that's pretty easy. And in most kits, you're going to have some standard colors. You're going to have some, ultramarine blue, and you're going to have your standard colors, and you'll probably be ready to go with this. Now, this video is in part about buying tube colors, which you're going to have to buy as individuals. So I want to give you some information about that. But before I move on, I just wanted to say, which I didn't say in the last video, is that if you get a little bit of a better brand, you also have the ability to swap out your pans or to replace your pan, your little half. This is called a half pan, or they're also larger pans. And you can switch these colors out. I have also filled up these little pans with liquid, with tube color too, if I didn't have a replacement pan. So just know that that's an option. For you, you can buy your replacement pan colors or swap some out if you want to. Anyway, so that's the pan set. So now I want to talk about the tube colors. And let me go back to myself for a second. Okay, color can be a little daunting when you start thinking about it, especially when you're looking at color charts and there's a million colors, or you're looking at all these different tubes of colors, you don't know where to start. So let me just simplify this for you, okay? Think of just colors in the beginning as basic colors, as hues. The hue is just, what is the color? It's blue. That's the hue, is blue. It's yellow. And there are very basic blues and basic yellows and basic reds. And those are the three real, colors that you get to work with. Now, green is a basic color in a way, but think about it. Green is basically blue and yellow together. So when you buy a green, you're buying a pre-mixed green. I'm already getting too complicated. Anyway, keep it simple. You got red, you got blue, you got yellow. And you can buy a couple pre-mixed greens too. And then you have some neutral colors, like some grays and what are called earth colors. And they're very neutral. They're great for by themselves or adding to colors to cut them down so that they're not so intense or, bright, everything bright pop color. So those are your categories. You got your base colors and variations. And then you have your earth colors and some neutrals. And I have prepared a list for you. I can show you, I'll show you that right now. And I'll just freeze the frame for a second, and you can take a picture of this screen. And then you'll have this to look at for reference, okay? So, oh, my doggy's barking. She wants in, she wants out, she wants in, she wants out. We'll try to ignore her for the moment. So here's your blues. Ultramarine blue is your basic blue, which comes in almost every single kit. And then if you're buying a tube color, you want to buy your basic blue, and I would buy a secondary blue, which I think of as almost like not a specialty color, but a variation of your basic. So Prussian blue is a very nice blue. There's also phthalo blue, and I'm going to pause right back. I'm going to get my girl and let her out. Okay, I'm back. Doggy's out terrorizing the neighborhood. No, not really. Okay, where was I? Okay, so let me go back to my screen share. You got your blue. I would get an ultramarine and a Prussian. Okay, reds. Alizarin crimson is a real standard red. and get another one, like a different, just look for something that's a different color. That, you know, most art stores or catalogs have a little color chart. Just pick another color that's different from the alizarin crimson. And then yellow, get a yellow ochre, which is actually an earth color, but it's a dark yellow. Very, very useful. One of my favorite colors. And then a lemon yellow or a cad yellow light, a light, bright yellow. Okay. And then in terms of pre-mixed greens, Viridian is your standard kind of green, and sap green, which is one of my favorite, very, very useful colors. So these, I would highly recommend getting these colors. And then again, you can make a bunch of other greens from these two yellows and these two blues. Now your earth colors and neutrals, burnt sienna is a must-have, and then raw umber. I'm not going to go into the qualities of these, just trust me on this. There'll be another video perhaps on a little bit more about color theory and color mixing. But right now, these are the colors to get. And then Payne's gray is a pre-mixed gray, which is really handy. Davies gray is a little harder to find, but it's a warm gray, whereas Payne's gray is a cool gray. More on that later. And then there's another color sometimes you can get called buff or buff titanium, which is like an off-white, which is kind of fun to have. And then Chinese white you can get as a tube of transparent white that you can use by itself, or you can mix with your watercolors and you end up with a more opaque color. So I hope you took your screen grab of that. Those are your basic colors. So let me go back to this pen. Okay, so here's your Chinese white. You can also get what's called gouache. Gouache is basically opaque watercolor. A watercolor by nature is transparent. You can see through it, layers, veils of colors. But if you want to make it opaque, you have to add white to it. And this is called gouache, something different. Anyway, you can buy white gouache, or you can buy Chinese white, which is a little bit more transparent. And I highly recommend getting a tube of this. Also for beginners, you know, as I often say, line is up to you, how much line you want to use. Here's a pencil eraser. I love this kind of blocky eraser. Any kind of little pencil sharpener, it's handy. And also an ink pen like this. Just make sure it's waterproof, unless you want to play with your ink line actually moving when you wet it, which can be really kind of fun to explore. So think about that, but that kind of freaks, you know, beginners out at first if their pen starts to run when they wet it. Okay, so now you got your tube colors, and I gave you your list. So now you need something to mix them in, a mixing tray. So there's all kinds of mixing trays. Here's a standard one. And what you'll do is you'll put your colors in these little ones. And then these are for mixing the various colors, or loosening them up, adding water, making a puddle appropriate to what you're going to do with it. So in other words, if you're going to cover a big area with one color, you got to mix up enough, get it loose, and add the water, and then do a wash. So, or let's say you're mixing a green and you got a blue here and a yellow over here, and then you mix them in this area here, and then you want another variation, and maybe you'll do it over here. So it's not rocket science, but this is just for mixing colors. There's all kinds of variations. There's these round ones, which are fine. I have one here that's shaped like some sort of a bug. I don't know if you can see that. In Asia, they have a lot of these kind of fun things. They actually have this, which is ceramic. And this is really beautiful. As you go down the road and you want to treat yourself to something fun, which I assume you will, this is a beautiful little ceramic mixing tray, and it feels different. Like when you mix on plastic, it sort of beads up a little bit. It works okay, but this is very different. So actually a very sensual, beautiful experience to mix in a nice ceramic dish. And actually I bought this at a thrift shop. This is a ceramic plate. It's the same thing, but this is made for chocolate, something. It's for some kind of food, but it will work great for paint. And I am always on the lookout for, you can use a yogurt lid right? I mean, we don't have to buy things, fancy things. This is kind of cool. This is my chocolate, which I'm going to eat the chocolate, maybe right away. But look at this. Ta-da! Can totally mix paint in this. Drop in some paint, and it's also sort of can take it with me because it's in this box. So I'm always on the lookout for cheap kind of art supplies. Don't forget you need a spritzer. And I think that's it. The only oh, I know what I want to say. I want you to think about always making a cheat sheet. Now, here's my another tray that I just loaded up. And what I did was I mimicked the colors that were in my pan set, and I made a tube version of this for my Wabi Sabi watercolor class so that I can show them how to work from the pan set or how to work from the tube set, but I wanted the same colors. So when they're dry like this, it's very hard to see the difference between these colors. So I always make this kind of a cheat sheet so I can see what the colors are and what the names are. And it's not critical that you know what the name of the color is, except when you want to buy a replacement color, you're going to need to know. And you also get to know them. They're your friends, so to speak. So it's good to know their names. Anyway, here's another one that I did for my pan set, which is great. I laminated it, so it's pretty sturdy. But as soon as you buy your colors, make a cheat sheet. Okay, so you can see what your color looks like on the paper, because it's going to look a little different than in the pan. So that's pretty good advice. So I think that's it for now. That's part 2 of the watercolor for beginners. I have a class coming up. It actually starts in less than a week, but they're ongoing. So if you are interested in a class, leave me a comment or leave me some contact info, and I will be happy to let you know. It's really, really fun. So that's it. I guess that's it for now. Bye. Bye from our conspiracy. Keep painting, be strong, stay safe. Sending out a lot of love out into the universe. Okay. Bye for now.